Do you want to play better golf? Of course you do. Well, here are 3 easy ways to do it. 1. Open your smartphone and look for the podcast app. 2. Open the podcast app and search Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan. 3. Subscribe and never miss an episode of great golf instructor interviews from around the world. A new guest every week, like David Ledbetter, Brian Manzella, Dr. Sashal McKenzie, James Siekman, just to name a few. Hear their insight as they deliver their wisdom of the game. Take control of your game. Subscribe today. Your game will thank you for it.
Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf podcast that interviews the best and brightest minds in the golf industry. Now, here's your host, Bernard Sheridan.
So, Matthew, welcome to Breaking Par. I know that your partners in crime are with you, Eric and Ian, and so we're looking forward to talking to you guys today. So what we always like to ask first is, and I guess I can ask this question to all 3 of you, is what is the very first time that you picked up a golf club in your entire life?
Well, first off, thanks for having us on the show. I appreciate that. I'm sure we all appreciate that a lot. The first time I picked up a golf club, wow. When I was maybe 10,
okay.
11, maybe around 9, 10, something like that. 9 or 10 on a soccer field with my older brother. That's when I first picked up a golf club.
And how about you, Eric?
So probably first time I picked up a golf club, I was probably about the same age, so 9 or 10, and I did a summer camp, kind of at our local par 3 course. And then I actually didn't really enjoy it that much at first, and so I didn't really start playing until I was about a sophomore in high school. And then I started to take it really seriously kind of from then. Nice.
And how about Ian? When I know this is like musical chairs. This is actually pretty cool. It's like it's all spinning on its own, even though I know you guys are doing it.
I slid in then. Mine was probably the slickest slide so far. For me, I can remember it quite clearly, actually. I played a lot of sports, but my grandparents are from Edinburgh, and they're big into their golf, being up in Scotland. And my grandpa bought me like a junior set of Dunlop blades. And I used to stand in his garden when I was about 11, 12 years old and just hit those flyaway balls at the window. Like, he didn't mind. He just used to pound them against the window. So that was the first time, and I just used to hit the balls around the garden. And then my dad actually got into golf, and he decided to take me to play on the course where I lived in Nottingham, just across the road, because of the passion I'd shown from my grandpa and gran introducing me to the game.
It's pretty cool. So when did all 3 of you guys, and I know that we're going to be doing a lot of swapping around here, and that's fine. But when did all 3 of you guys kind of decide that maybe this was the type of thing that you wanted to do and get involved in as a career?
So for me, I was a multi-sport athlete as a junior. I played for what would be the equivalent of my state at rugby, football, cricket, and golf when I was 12, 13. And then, as you progress, I started to play less and less sports and take other sport, just reduce. And rugby was the sport really that I played in college. But I failed and I wasn't successful in getting to that next level after college. And I really started to look at, okay, why was I unsuccessful? And then I started to see at the golf club that I was a member at back in England, where Matthew coached. Matthew actually coached me. I was just a standard member. I actually started to see a lot of the kids go through the same cycle that I was going through, 12, 13, 14 years old, getting very outcome focused, very stressed, defining themselves by the results that they would get. And I started to help them. And that was about a decade ago. And then I got really interested in the psychological side, had some qualifications in sports psychology and understanding of neuro-linguistic programming and things like that, and just started to really apply those methods to junior coaching back at Cooke Hall in Leeds, then Alton Hall, and that's where I met Mark Pearson, who was an awesome golf coach, and he introduced me to a few tour players who got good results, and it's snowballed now to me being part of Game Like Training just outside Atlanta. So it's been fun.
Excellent, excellent. So how about you, Matt? When did you decide to get involved in this as a career?
When I was around 16, between 16 and 17 is when I decided to pursue it as a career. I played a lot of soccer. My brother was a really good soccer player. Well, football to us guys, but for the American audience.
Sure.
So my brother was a really good soccer player. So I just, as a byproduct of being around my dad, who actually used to coach the soccer team, my brothers, for a couple of seasons, I played soccer a lot, trained 4, 5, 6 days a week, and it only got more intense the higher level that I got to.
And he was actually pretty good, believe it or not. I can vouch for me, he was actually pretty good.
I was pretty good. I was all right. I played for some really good soccer teams. My brother got to a much higher level than I did, but I ended up burning out. So I burnt out pretty quickly and lost interest with the game and decided that golf seemed way more fun. And my dad put me in an environment at a nice, quite well-known golf club. And I was around these other junior golfers and better coaches and better instruction, and just an overall better experience for me as a junior golfer. And then at that point, I saw the types of lifestyles that these coaches had. They came to work really happy. They looked fulfilled. They looked like they enjoyed what they did. And so I thought it was pretty cool. And I decided then that, you know what, I'm gonna try and play first. I think I knew at the time. I thought I knew how hard it was. I didn't until it slapped me in the face. But I tried to play. Wasn't very successful. Just played, small mini tour stuff, and then really got interested in coaching when I went to college. And the rest is history, I guess. College, and then do your PGA. Go and spend time with as many good coaches as you can. Got the chance to spend some time around some good coaches, some good players, and now I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, at Game Like Training.
So, and how did Game Like Training come about? I know that I don't know, and really I guess what I want to say too is, how long have the three of you been associated with each other?
Oof. How long? Me and Ian have been working with each other for like 8 years, maybe 8, 9 years, but only in a more of a coaching capacity. The last, it's not too dissimilar actually. 7 years, 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Ian was at IJGA and Bishopsgate Golf Academy, and he met Eric, and so he introduced me to Eric not too long ago, just over maybe a year ago, and so just from all of our beliefs, they all align with each other. We all kind of see the same page without forcing each other to be on it, and so that's how we became associated with each other. Me and Ian quite a long time. Ian and Eric much longer than the three of us, and then I guess this past year, all three of us. Yeah.
So, and how did you guys decide to settle in the Atlanta area?
So, my wife's originally from Ackworth, Georgia.
Matthew told us to.
So I came to Atlanta, and there's a lot of good golf in Florida, Atlanta, the Carolinas, Alabama. This sort of region, there's a lot of good golf. And so I didn't want to be too far away from Florida, but I didn't want to be in Florida. And so I kind of established myself here, and then just locally with some good players, some good college players, and with the academy. And then we've always, me, Ian, and Eric, we've always been in touch with each other, always helping each other, assisting each other, just professionally. And so, Game Like Training got its first headquarters here, and it's kind of just you don't have much control over it, really. You just kind of snowballed into, all right, this is home base, this is where we'll start. So we all came here.
Because I know that Ian was down at Bishopsgate, correct?
Yeah.
So and that's outside of Orlando, correct? Is that correct, Ian?
Yeah. So it was strange. Myself and Matthew, we actually set up Leap Golf in England, and the whole goal of Leap Golf was to give junior golfers more than just golf swing. There were just methods and techniques, and all of these junior golfers were getting paralysis by analysis, and they weren't taking advantage of their athletic abilities from being multi-sport athletes. So myself and Matthew, we decided, okay, everyone's coaching swing. Let's coach everything else that evolves around the swing. Let's coach psychology. Let's coach people how to practice in a game-like fashion. Let's coach strategy. Let's put players under pressure in practice. So we actually went and we visited the local swimming academy, the local gymnastics academy, and we saw how other sports were doing this, karate academies. And we were like, man, golf needs a shift. Let's try and be the ones to change the way that junior athletes learn golf. So we did it at Leap Golf. We started at Cookeridge Hall, didn't quite work out there. Myself and Matthew went separate ways. I worked, as I said, at Alton Hall with Mark Pearson, who was just couldn't have done more for me. He was really the person who helped me start my career in golf. Matthew was still at Cookeridge Hall. We were still doing some work together with Leap Golf. And then Matthew said to me one day, I sent like 100 emails to America, and one guy got back to me, a guy called Zach Parker, who's at the Gary Gilchrist Golf Academy. So I'm going to go to America. And I was like, oh, cool. If they need a mental coach, let me know. 9 months later, Zach and a lady called Leanne Gilchrist are on the phone, and they say, okay, we need a mental coach. We'd like you to come out, spend some time. So they offered me the job, and then we moved to Bishopsgate. So then myself and Matthew found ourselves together at Bishopsgate. Then Matthew decides he wants to leave and go to Atlanta. So Matthew goes to Atlanta. And so basically, I think I'm making a career out of following Matthew around. That's what I've just concluded from this conversation.
Yeah, kind of. But I think probably because you guys, the opportunities arose, and there was that opening. You guys always seem to have a good rapport with each other, from what I can gather from this conversation. And you enjoyed working with each other, and that opportunity arose, so you took it. Yeah,
I mean, Matthew's been through some hard times in his life. That was when I first met him, and I helped him out, and vice versa. He came to my wedding, which was in Las Vegas, and, we had a great time. So we're definitely friends before we are business associates. And they say never mix business and pleasure, but, right now we disagree with that. We're having an amazing time setting up this business, and we have the same sort of mindset, not only when it comes to golf, but when it comes to business and what we're trying to achieve, and the great leaders in the business world like Mark Zuckerberg or Phil Knight. We've all read their autobiographies. We all watch them. So we really are on the same page, but definitely the friendship came first. And then we had all these crazy ideas that our wives and friends just used to laugh at us about, and now we're kind of living them, which has been great.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So tell us a little bit about Game Like Training, and really what you guys are doing there with your clients.
You want me?
Whoever wants to do it is fine.
So, when Matthew left Bishopsgate, he left with the theory that training should be more game-like, that games are addictive, that there's millions and millions of people obsessed with the PlayStation and the Xbox, but yet golf practice is pretty boring and pretty monotonous. And if you make training game-like, then people will become addicted to the process of trying to improve. And there's a misconception as well about game-like training. It's not just playing games. if you want to change a golf swing, so Eric does a lot of stuff on body track and 3D and TrackMan. Yes, we love all that technology, and we understand that students and athletes, they have to evolve their technique. It's a part of elite performance, but we're going to do it in a game-like fashion. So even if it's basic 3D, biofeedback, okay, you got to make 3 beeps in a row. Otherwise, if you don't, you have to go and get up and down before you can come back onto the 3D machine. So we do try and make every aspect, the physical side of the game, the mental side of the game, the technical side of the game, we try and wrap it all up in a game-like package. Because if kids aren't enjoying the game and aren't addicted to the process of getting better, then it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter what physical gifts you have. If you don't have that motivation and an addiction to get better, it's not going to happen. And also this form of training, it creates lifelong participation in the sport, we believe. So, yeah, we really are trying just to evolve the way that the golf athlete trains.
Now, is the bulk of what you do with juniors, or do you do this type of training with adults too?
So this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Game-like training is ultimately a platform where we want to put out as much free education as we can, and we want to create like a tribe. So right now, we have Stuart Morgan, who's heading up game-like training Europe. And we have another guy called Mark Mollen, who's going to be game-like training Denmark. And we want to create a movement where it makes change within the industry. So it's really a platform for coaches to become educated. Now, through that platform, we do get players reach out to us. So I do a lot of online and remote coaching with elite college players on the psychology side of the game. So I work with players from Arkansas, Purdue, a student who's going to Columbia this year. So I do some stuff with coaches, but with players, but ultimately we also have the AJ Golf Academy, which stands for American Junior Golf Academy. And that's where we deliver our craft every day. It's all well and good us saying, okay, you should practice like this or you should make it game-like, but we have to be doing it. So we have a second business where every day we're trying to get the juniors and the adult golfers and the college golfers that we're blessed to work with at the Governor's Town Club, trying to get them better through the AJ Golf Academy. And then we provide the education in the form of game-like training.
Interesting. So what are some of the games that you guys are doing? And like, give us an idea of some of the processes you're putting these guys through. And gals, I'm sure.
I'll pass this to Eric because Eric's the head coach of the AJ Golf Academy.
Sure. And
he's the one really doing a majority of the coaching and the games on a daily basis.
Awesome.
All right. So I'll give you kind of an on-course because we talk a lot about kind of how, people, the training has gotten better when it comes to the driving range, but a lot of times people, they just go onto the course and they just play, and they don't really understand that the golf course, can be used more effectively. And so, looking at a player, if they have a tendency to, as soon as they get under par, they kind of take their foot off the pedal and they fall apart a little bit, we'll build a game around that. So they go onto the golf course and it's, okay, you have to play from the forward tees and you have to get to 2 under, and then you have to maintain 2 under or improve it for the next 3-hole stretch. And you have, 4 hours to complete this task. Off you go. And so we do a lot of kind of on-course games where it's not just going out onto the course and playing. It's actually trying to make the golf course more challenging. And so you look at, the greatest soccer players in the world. So they all, typically come from Brazil. And so, what do those players do when they're young? Well, they play indoor soccer, on a smaller court with a smaller goal on a faster field. So they develop these skills that, most players, because I grew up playing soccer, and the U.S. system is starting to change slowly, but by the time you're like 12, you're playing on a full-size field with full goals, and, it's pretty easy to score because these kids are teeny. So America in a soccer aspect, I guess, is lacking because we aren't training the same way that, Brazilians are. So So when we look at kind of training on the golf course, it's okay, how can we make the golf course more challenging than, it actually is in a tournament? So that would be kind of one example, I guess.
So then they're going out. So I mean, and you're saying that you're having them basically play from shorter tees.
Yeah, it can depend on the game or on the student. It's different for everybody. I've done a strategy game with a group of kids once where they had to call their shot. And so off the tee, they had to say, okay, if it's going to be a draw or a fade, and which kind of half of the fairway it was going to finish in. And then they had to do that with their approach shot, picking a quadrant. It's going to finish short left, long right, whatever. And one of the kids walked off the course at the end of the day, and he just said, "Oh, Eric, I get it." He's like, I know what I need to do now. And he's gone out, and in his last 4 tournaments, he hasn't had a double. And I think he won his first event back in Colorado about a month ago.
But there's a constraint in that. Explain what happens if they don't execute.
Right. So when you call your shot, if you execute the shot and it finishes on the side of the fairway that you called, you get minus 0.5 off your score. If you hit the opposite shot, or if you say it's going to be a draw and it finishes in the left side of the fairway, but you hit a draw and it finishes in the right side of the fairway, you add a penalty stroke. And so, all of a sudden the students are becoming a little bit more engaged in kind of verbal protocols because they're having to say it out loud. But they're also now kind of visualizing the shot and being a little bit more specific in what they're trying to achieve. And, for certain kids, it was pretty impressive to see how many greens they started hitting and kind of the control they started to kind of develop over their golf shots. Whereas before, when they're on the golf course, they're really not specific in what they're trying to do. So that, again, depending on the student, it can change. You can kind of tailor the game to their needs.
So what about the players that aren't as proficient? Are you working with any players like that? Because it sounds to me like the majority of the players that you're working with, they call their shot, they hit it. So I mean, and there's not a lot of players over the course of golf as a population that can even hit a draw. So what about the players who are having difficulty with that? What type of games are you playing with them, or are you not really dealing with that type of player?
No, we definitely are. So in our summer camp programs that we have going on right now, we have a lot of kids under the age of 8, and so trying to make just the golf course more welcoming and friendly to them. We've done a game called Chuck It, and so they all tee off, and then at any point one of the coaches can yell "Chuck It," and the kids run and they can grab either their ball or somebody else's ball. And so if they grab their ball, they try to throw it closer to the hole. If they grab somebody else's ball, they can throw it further away. And so it's, it just gets the kids kind of excited about playing and getting onto the golf course. So it's not all, there's so many different ways that you can kind of use the golf course. It doesn't always have to be, okay, we're going to hit, every ball with a golf shot. I've even gone out with kids with a lacrosse stick, and they got to use a lacrosse stick for one throw, and they got to choose, at what point of the hole they wanted to use it. Or I know Ian's gone out with little kids and they've designed the hole. Okay, where do you guys want to tee off from? What do you think the par should be? And so little things kind of like that to get the kids kind of engaged in it, thinking about it a little bit more and having a little more fun.
Interesting. So what about range games and things like that? Are you doing anything there, or is everything always on the course?
I mean, yeah, we definitely do stuff on the range. It's nice to get onto the course, golf is a sport that for so long hasn't been trained in the same environment in which you perform in.
I agree.
So every other sport, tennis, they practice on a tennis court, soccer on a soccer field, and then golf, we have a driving range, and it's flat, and we have our pyramid of balls, and we feel comfortable. So, anytime we can kind of change that environment on the driving range, we're looking to do it there, but obviously getting to do it on the golf course is great. And I think the only reason that I've kind of done all golf course examples is because a lot of times, like I said, people don't kind of realize that you can use the golf course in other ways than just playing. You can tailor and change the environment of the golf course to meet a kid's needs and to kind of see shifts in technique or shifts in strategy in just kind of changing the environment of the course. Matthew's going to step in for one.
Driving range practice. I got excited when you mentioned that. Started jumping up and down on the side there. So it's really interesting because you, as golf coaches, there's a lot of trends going on right now with different strategies, challenge point theory, constraints-led learning. There's a lot of different things out there to try and improve the efficiency of practice. Now, we're all golf coaches. You've got coaches and regular golfers listening to the show. You can't go out and practice on the golf course every day. And you can't go out on the first hole, on the first tee, and drop a bucket of 50 golf balls. And you can't go around that first green and hit 25 different shots. You can't do it because the greenkeepers are trying to look after the course. There's pace of play. There's people trying to play. The golf club's got to try and make money to stay in business. There's all of these constraints that make it very difficult. And so we have to use the driving range in a way that ultimately simulates the types of experiences that you're going to get and be faced with on a golf course. And so we have a driving range. We typically at most clubs have a chipping green and a putting green, and so there's not too many differences with the environment because the range is here and then 10 feet to the right is the putting green, but there is a slight change, and so you have to be better with how you deliver practice as a golf coach and how you go about practice as a player. And so we have some workbooks that are full of different games that you can actually do on a range, on a putting green and on a chipping green or in a bunker, which you can find in practice facilities. And so imagine this. You go to the range because you can't get out on the course for 6 hours because it's a golf day or something going on. And we've got Tiger's 9 game on the range, and then we've got PGA Tour putting and distance lag putting game, and we've got in the bunker we've got we've got lose or gain. There's 4 different games right there that could take you 6 hours to play, rather than just going on a putting green and hitting 53-foot putts and just getting bored and building up this perception that you're getting better when you're really not. You could go. Attempt this game, hit 1 shot, go to the range, which is only 15 feet away, attempt one of the Tiger's 9, go to the bunker, attempt one of the lose or gain shots. You're playing 4 different games. You're using the practice environment to where you're in a slightly different environment every time. So you're getting probably as good or the closest you can possibly get to the golf course. Between shots, there's time. I can't remember the last time that someone hit 56 irons in a row on a golf course. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
We hope not.
Right? So you go and you hit that putt in this putting game, and then you got to walk 15 feet. That's maybe take you a couple of minutes to do this next game. So you're spacing, you're interleaving different practice tasks. You're doing everything you can to make practice on the range just like the golf course, which is where you maximize the potential transfer of skill. And so we have games, workbooks, they'll be published in a couple of months or something, but people can reach out to us now and we'll send some games to them, but we got to start using game-like trainings, performance games on the range, which will help people take their game to the golf course just because of the constraints that we have in using the golf course.
Now, the bulk of these games that you're playing with the students, are they always in a group, or is there stuff that you do that's individualized?
So within these workbooks, we have multiplayer levels. It's individual player, and we have most of the games have a multiplayer option where the rules change slightly. Not much, but if 2 people want to play it, this is how you change the rules. Because we have a structure. We have what the game is. What's the goal of the game? What are the rules and what's the scoring system? And so based on single player or multiplayer, the rules and the goal changes.
Sure.
Because, it's always best to have it in a group and not necessarily with kids at the same skill level, which is typically what's done. You put them in the same skill level. Well, we go differently. We want those kids that are in the sort of phase where they want intense training, whether one kid's better than the other, they're going to go together because they'll have the same intensity. And so we prefer it in groups, but in the right group rather than individual. But yeah, we cater to both just because you have to.
So if you have a player who wants to go through these things on their own, let's say, because he's there to practice, does that happen?
How does it happen?
Does it happen?
It does, yeah, because unfortunately in this sport, obviously with the population of people in this sport, it's less than soccer, football, basketball, and sports like that. So, you do get a lot of youngsters, whether they're elite level or the beginner level, that come out and practice on their own. And most of the time it's because they don't have friends within the sport.
Right.
So one of our primary things is to focus on finding people that this individual, if they're new to the game, how can we put them within an environment where they get friends? Because I have a group of girls that all started out as separate. Well, they're all separate people, but they all started out not knowing each other.
Sure.
They came to practice on their own. So I set up a group where they all come and train together. And now on different days, they communicate with each other. And now Ella will come out and practice with Sydney because they've talked to each other. And now you find that if you start matching people up and putting kids with other kids that are in the same psychological phase, they'll come and practice together. The only reason that people come and practice on their own, I shouldn't say only reason, but a big reason is that they don't know somebody else that's at the same stage in their golfing life to go and practice with. So that's what we focus on.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, for sure. Just one quick thing before Ian jumps on. If they do come on their own, at least if they're practicing this way, performance games or interleaving their practice, utilizing different areas of the golf practice ground, at least if they're on their own, it's the best they could do at that particular time. All right, I'll let Ian jump on.
Sure.
I think as well, to take it a different route to Matthew, I think his answer is going to be way better than this one. This one's going to be a little more basic and boring. But ultimately, when you give someone a lesson, and it's really hard, we try very hard to do everything in programs. And we try and match the kids, as Matthew said, if they're new to golf, we want them to enjoy golf. If they have made a decision that they want to play golf and they want to play for their high school team or they want to go to college and they want to get better, we make the program more intense. But ultimately, they are going to come to you for a 1 hour lesson. And we've done enough research and have received enough education, have enough understanding to know that a swing or a psychological process, it doesn't change in 45 minutes to an hour. The individual's motivation and the way the individual then participates in that practice when we're not there is more important than what they did in front of us. So with the use of technology like Edify, which is just, it's revolutionized the way that I coach, we basically set homework. We would basically set homework and say, okay, so this is what we've worked on today. Here's the 1 or 2 games for the range that are going to help you with this, and here's the 1 game for the golf course. And then what we expect is from our better players, we expect some form of self-regulation and self-reflection. So, okay, Ian, I played PGA Tour putt today and I scored 15. This is 3 lower than my highest score. I actually missed all the putts at the back end of the game, and I think it's because I got outcome focused and forgot to do my routine. Magic. Look at the game. That's just so much learning. And then we'll reply to the Edify post, praise the effort. Maybe they even videoed themselves during that. And then we go back and forth, and they've got reflection and regulation, and they've got some interaction. Have to be careful not to create. Sorry.
No worries. It's real life, so those things happen.
Can you still see it?
Yep, we still see you.
Okay.
Everything's fine on this end.
Okay, you've just gone small on our end, but that's fine. But yeah, there has to be some form of self-regulation and reflection. And these games, they let us see, is the player motivated to go and practice? Is the player motivated to try and beat their best? Do they have an ego mindset? Do they have a mastery mindset? And it also helps the player self-regulate. What I was going to say before the phone rang is you have to get that nice blend of not creating dependency. So maybe, you wouldn't answer maybe every single post, or, you don't want to create a dependent athlete. There's some autonomy. But even then, once they get further down the process and we finish a lesson, okay, what games do you think? Or you invent the game. You invent the game, put it on Edify, and we'll help you reflect on it. So I think that's a big part of the practice situation as well, getting that self-regulation and that reflection on the go. Because, if you look at someone like Maverick McNeely, that's one of the reasons that he's got to where he got. I think he was 1,500 in the world amateur rankings, and through statistics and effective practice and regulation gets himself to world number one. And a lot of it is based on that. So you have to get kids on the pathway of reflecting and regulating.
Right. So now that you guys have started to do this, and you mentioned, I know earlier in the podcast that you want to try to get this going in other places other than just your own. So what is your process now looking forward to how you're going to kind of spread this this method or this approach and kind of promote it to other academies to maybe become a part of that and take it on in their academy?
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough. There's been some great people to me. So obviously yourself, this is the second time we've spoken. Spencer Dennis at Edify is interested, and he puts us on podcasts and things like that. Karen Harrison and Lauren at the Proponent Group have really helped by giving me a platform to speak. I know Matthew's spoken at the Philadelphia section. We appeared together at the Open Forum with Nick Shertock, who again, Nick, Michael Michadelis and Chris Como and Trillium have all been awesome. So we actually want to spend time with the best people to learn from them and learn what we do and see if we can refine our own practice. And often when we go and we get education from other people, they're interested back, and we just form partnerships and we work with these people. And the best example of this was at IJGA. Stuart Morgan came in as the director of golf, and we had lots of conversations that the golf world really seems to be about what we do. It's not how we're going to do it. So it's all about, this is what needs to happen. Okay, well, how as coaches or as players do we make that happen? Or do we create that evolution or create that change? And myself and Stuart just had conversations, and I introduced him to Matthew and I introduced him to Eric, and just like-minded people come together. And that's all we're doing. We're trying to just put the word out on things like this and speak to people like Stuart. And over the coming weeks or months, Stuart's going to become a lot more involved in game-like training in Europe. And, Mark Mullen, who's a great guy and a great coach over in Denmark, just emailed us and basically said, can I come and shadow you guys? We said, yeah, of course. So he came, spent a week with all three of us. And now, yeah, he's going to be part of the game-like training team. And we hope to actually set up clinics in Denmark. Russell Warner, who's a very passionate guy about his golf in the Swiss PGA. He's educating himself a lot, doing a master's right now. I speak with him regularly, and, he's looking at getting maybe some of the game-like training philosophy into the Swiss PGA. I know that it's already in the South African PGA. Matthew works very closely with a highly regarded coach called Costanza, and currently a lot of his courses have CPD points within the South African PGA. So it's just growing, and it's just growing because we're passionate about it. These people are passionate about it. I mean, Stuart's just incredible. That guy gets up. I thought I was focused and a model professional, and then I met Stuart, and he's up at 4 or 5 in the morning reading research papers, studying. When I started working with Stuart, I was like, man, I'm going to have to up my game.
Is Stuart single? He probably should be if he isn't, or he's going to end up being if he's working from 4 in the morning until late in the evening, probably.
He just had a second child.
Wow,
so
good for him.
He's super. He just has this. I mean, he's not working past 8:30 at night. he's kind of asleep by then.
I would think if he's up at 4.
Yeah, but he just has this laser sharp focus and just this clarity on what he wants to do, and it matched game like training. So we just synergized. We didn't go out there we're not trying to do this. Just like-minded people find like-minded people in the end. And I think that's what's nice about this. And I've learned more from meeting those people. You know, Stuart went to see Dr. Paul Shem, who's just a couple of hours away from us. Matthew then did a podcast with him on the Game Like Training Radio, which is an exceptional podcast. And now all three of us are going to go and see him and just have a conversation. Dr. Anders Ericsson at Florida State has given up plenty of time for all of us and answers emails immediately because he really likes what we're trying to do. So, you know, anyone who's passionate about this and who likes it can jump on board and be part of the journey. We don't know where it's going to go or where it's going to finish, but we definitely have like a global interest in what we're doing, which is pretty cool, which is really cool.
Well, you know, I think that from being in instruction for 18 years myself, I really believe that it has to take a different direction. I mean, than what it has been, and it has started to, but things like this are a totally different direction, and more as to where it really should be, because what that's doing is it's getting people to fall away from the traditional just 1 hour lesson and then go to the range, because really when you look at across the board, handicaps have not dropped across the board in general with that type of training. So maybe if things like this start to catch on, maybe 10 years from now, we'll start to see some handicaps dropping due to the fact that it's being approached in a completely different way.
We would hope so, but I think our goal, even before the handicap dropping, is participation numbers increasing.
Yes.
Because it's so, like, I've seen 5 and 6 year old kids being drilled by their parents on the range because they're not hinging the club properly. I mean, he's a 6-year-old, he's a 5-year-old. He probably wants to go and play with his Smurf toys, and he's getting told about not hinging the club. Like, it can't be like that. It has to be a place of expression and a place of fun and a place of learning. And then, and only then, when the child and not the parent decides, okay, this is what I want to do. I love this sport. I'm in. I want to be a pro, or I want to go to college, or I want to go to a coach. Then and only then, when they shift to that intense phase of training, do we start looking at the hinge. Like, come on, it doesn't matter.
No, I agree.
I played rugby. When I played rugby, I was an extremely good goal kicker. And it was because my dad was a coach and he used to sit me on the side of the pitch even before I could walk, and I used to watch. And I was in an environment that exposed me to it. By the time I was 5 years old, I could kick the ball over the posts. I played until I was 13 or 14 before I got my first technical lesson on how to kick. And it was by David Aldred, who coached Johnny Wilkinson, and it was a 12-frame camera, 12 frame shots that I got. And the first 11 frames, he told me no technique needed. Just after the ball, you're leaning to your left. So just keep your chest a bit square, keep your balance better once the ball's gone. I mean, and I never had anything. So you can evolve it and technique does need to be worked on, but not when you're 5 or 6 years old. It's got to be fun. It's got to be engaging.
I totally agree, and that's what makes them want to continue to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for folks who are interested in training with you guys, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you? Is there a website? Is there an area? I mean,
yeah. So let's try. I'm gonna need some help here, Mike. It's www.gameliketraininggolf.com, and then we're trying to get more active on Twitter, which is @GLT And then we have a Facebook page, which is just the name, a YouTube channel where we're putting out lots of free education. And that's Game Like Training. So if you go onto YouTube and put in Game Like Training and subscribe, all of those platforms, or, just email any of us. So it's first initial I and surname Highfield, or M Cooke, or A Zeigel @GLT.com. So any of those And maybe we can send you something to put up on the screen with the details.
Yeah, no, that'd be great if you could. And we'll talk about that after we're off the air. But that would be awesome, and then we'll have that on the show notes page, so that if anybody wants to contact you guys and get in touch with you to be able to participate if they're in the Atlanta area, or if they want to come up and do it, or down wherever they are.
Yeah, whatever people want, we will try and cater. You know, this isn't our philosophy. Like, it's not our intellectual property. We're going and visiting professors and scientists, and we're studying other sports, and we're just adapting it into a training method. So we don't believe that we own anything or that it's ours. We want to share it with anyone. And, you know, we have an Edify free space, and we have an Edify space where you pay like $10 a month, and we put coaching in there and we explain why we're doing it. I have an Edify online course that I've just let 35 people in for free, just the first 35 to check it out and give us some feedback. So the podcasts are out there. There's lots of information that we're putting out there, just because, you know, we want people to have it. And even if people want to challenge us and have, you know, good conversations on how we can make it better, then we would love that. I would embrace criticism, or, you know, anything along those lines. We just want to engage and just, I guess, push the golf industry and the way people train and young athletes' lives forward.
Well, it's great. Well, look, great for being with us today. We're really glad that you were on again, and it's good to speak with you again, Ian. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Matt.
I'll let Matty slide in.
And also Eric. So what we'll say in parting, or what we always like to say in parting, is do your best to keep it in the short grass until we meet again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, guys, take care.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.